Hi and welcome to this yet another video. It's Friday, it's early February in the UK here. We're still in lockdown and I'm out doing a bit of scouting. We forecast some snow on Sunday and there's a couple of shots I want to get, so I thought I'd come out today so that first thing Sunday morning, if it snowed, then I can come out, know exactly what I'm going to do, know where I'm going to park, know where to get the shot, know what lens I'm going to use, and just do it. So that's what I'm doing now. On Sunday I'll be using my D780. I suspect I should be using a 35mm lens, and I'm going to use focus stacking, and that's why I'm going to use the D780 and not the D700. Because I want the whole of the shot that I'm going to do to be in focus. And even if I use a really small aperture, maybe f16, problem with using f16, something like that, is that it tends to be a bit soft, and I'd like this to be a really minimalist, excuse the car, a really minimalist shot, and absolutely tack sharp group. So I want to use an aperture probably around about f4, f5.6, which means one of the shots I want is a row of trees sort of disappearing into the distance, and I want all of those to be sharp. So it's going to be a chance to use the focus stacking features of the D780, sorry. And in 100 yards time or so I'll be at this row of trees, so we'll have a look. Okay, so here we are, and there's the row of trees behind me. Just try and pan around a little bit. As you can see, it's just simply a field. So if it's been snowing, that's just going to be completely white, and then behind those trees again it's field. So the sort of shot I'm hoping to get, try and show you, is something like that, obviously without me in the picture. So we're going to have white ground with snow, presumably probably a completely white sky, I would imagine, and the trees as the only really thing in the shot. Minimalist, whether it will look good I'm not absolutely sure, but that's what my plan is for Sunday. Also along the way I came across a tree. Actually I can show you. It's that tree over there in the distance. And if I take a shot from the road, it's again a minimalist shot. There'll just be a little bit of ground, snow, the tree against a completely white background. So we'll try that one as well. So fingers crossed for Sunday, and I'll be back with you then. So following on from where we were, which was actually a couple of days ago now, as the snow took a bit longer to come than I expected. Also yesterday it was snowing all day long, and it was really, it wouldn't have made a good photo. So I left it till today. I've now got to walk about 200 yards back up the road. Looks like I've got to climb through about a 3 foot thick snowdrift to actually get where I want to be. But let's go up there, we'll have a look. I'll put the camera on once I'm all set up, and we'll take it from there. Before I go, gear I'm taking, and what I'm going to do so I don't have to spend any longer outside than I need to, is I've got my D700 and the D780. I've got a 35 lens and a 50 lens, and I'm going to take just a normal shot with each camera with the 35 lens, because I think to get the shot I want I need the 35, not the 50. I'll explain why the 50 in a second. And what I'm then going to do is put each camera on the tripod with the 35 lens on, and I'm going to manually focus stack the shot I want. So I'm going to focus on, I'll be using probably about f3, something like that, 3.5, and I'll focus on the nearest tree, And what I will then do is, without touching anything other than the focus, I shall just move the focus a bit further away,
another shot a bit further away, another shot a bit further away, another shot, and so on, and take probably 6 or so photos. So that hopefully when I get back home in Lightroom, we can stack all those together and get some wonderfully sharp image right the way through this range of trees. I'm also going to use the D780, and I'll do the same thing on that manually, but also of course the D780 has got its own focus stacking feature, automatic, so I shall use that as well. And for that to work, it needs to have a lens with a focus motor, which obviously a D lens, the 35D lens I've got doesn't have, so hence the reason why the 50 lens. So let's go up there, we'll get started, and I'll meet you up the top of the hill. Okay, so I've just looked, and there's no way I can use the 50mm lens. It's just going to chop the whole scene in half. So we're going to be using 35. So I'll start with the 35 on the D700. I just need to put the So I'm going to start with the D780 with the 35 lens on, because the 50, I've just tried it, and I'm going to cut the scene in half with the 50. So we're going to be on the 35. Just pop that back on there too. Make sure we don't get any snow or anything. Right, so this is going to be manually focus stacked, as I can't use the automatic feature, as I say, because I've got a D lens on. So I need to get a manual focus, and I'm going to focus on. We'll zoom in. I've got focus peaking on, which really helps when it's a bit bright and difficult to see the back screen like this. We're going to go for we'll go for 3.2, f3.2, just to give us a bit of depth of field. Put the focus point, wrong one, put the focus point over there, zoom in and manually focus on. Now that's really interesting, because by using focus peaking, it's actually showing me that even at f3.2, because we're some distance from the subject, in fact every single tree is in focus. Even if I go to f2, they're pretty well all in focus. So I think today is not going to be about focus stacking. Today will be about simply editing this scene and making it as good as we possibly can. So we'll just take a shot then. We're at 1/3200th of a second, so no need to worry about camera shake or putting it onto a timer or anything like that. There we are. I'm just going to change the exposure slightly, and I'm going to change it again. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think we can do something with that. Right, so that's it for the D780 then, as we can't do any focus stacking. So we'll now put the D700 on. Okay, we're in business. Now obviously I haven't got a nice tilty screen on the D700, which makes life a little bit more difficult. And we've got ISO at 100. 3,500 of a second. And let's just see what we've got. Okay. I haven't got a touchscreen, have I? Oh dear. Right.
Okay, we'll take one more for that. I'll just change that to f5.6 just to make sure we've got the whole thing in focus, which puts the ISO at 200. Okay, we're done. Let's go home. We'll go into Lightroom and see what we can do with this. So this video is turning out to be somewhat different to what I initially anticipated. It was supposed to be about focus stacking and using the automatic focus stacking features on the D780, and then also showing you some shots from focus stacking manually on the D700. However, as I'll explain shortly, that actually didn't work out too well, either from a technical point of view, but also from an aesthetic point of view. And in fact here, what you're looking at now is in fact my photo of the day, and I'll run through how we got that in a minute. Let's jump into what I should have been photographing, and the first one. So here's the first shot from the D780, a 35mm lens on an f2, and as you can see, we're pretty sharp. We're zooming at 100%, I think, which makes sure. Yes, 100%. Oh, it's gone again. There we go. So it's pretty well focused on that first tree, and I mentioned during the recording, when I was actually shooting this, that focus peaking was showing all of these trees with red round, all of the trees right the way back to here. Now that is in focus, allegedly, but it's not, is it? It could have done with focus stacking maybe just 3 or 4 shots just to get these trees down the end in better focus. So I've got this one in good focus, and the rest are going to be going slightly out of focus. So in spite of what focus peaking was saying, I should have ignored it and done what I initially set out to do anyway. Let's just mark that one as a red one. We've then got a series of 3 780 photos, and then we get the first of the D700 photos, where I was using AF. I wasn't in manual focus, and I was focusing on somewhere around here, but as you can see, for some reason it didn't focus at all. The next shot was absolutely fine, and in fact that's my pick of the D700 photos. So if we now go back and look at the first shot I took, which was this shot. As I was walking down to those line of trees, I walked past this single tree, and that's the shot I took with the D700 35mm lens on, and I had to climb through a snowdrift up a bank, and I was actually hanging onto a branch of a tree using one hand to actually get this shot. It wasn't very comfortable, and I realised that I was chopping the top of the tree off, and obviously in that situation I couldn't move back any further. I didn't have a lens wider than 35mm on me, so what I did was I split the shot in two. So I went into portrait mode and I took that shot, and then just moved to the side a bit, switched around a bit, didn't touch the focus at all, didn't touch anything, just moved the camera and took a second shot. Then, and I'll show you how I did this, put these together in Lightroom into a panorama, and as we're not going to talk about the focus stacking because that turned out to be a non-event, let's talk instead about creating a panorama. So all I've done in Lightroom is selected those two. So we'll just go to photo merge, and we're going to do a panorama, and it will now spend a few moments creating one shot from those two. There are various choices for the way you actually merge those together. In this particular case, doesn't seem to make a huge difference other than looking a bit more zoomed out, and I preferred the cylindrical view. which was there. So that's all I'm going to do. There's nothing else that I'm going to play around with. So we just do merge, and that will now go off and merge that into a photo. And when it's finished, it's added a new photo to the timeline, and there we have our panorama, 2 shots from 1. And already I could certainly see the potential of this. What I didn't like, and what I think I mentioned whilst we were actually recording the shooting, was the fact that the snow wasn't actually that deep out in the field. It was initially that deep, but we had some pretty strong wind whilst it was snowing, and it actually blew the top off. So it exposed lots of these stones all the way across the field, which isn't the look I was looking for. So on this shot here, which is exactly the same shot, but I've spent 15-20 minutes processing this, I've got this shot here. So I've got rid of all the stones, I've blended the sky and the ground to be the same, but I've left some of the texture and the stones in front of the tree here, just to give it some sort of, I was going to say, so it looks planted. That's maybe a good term, maybe not. I'm not sure. But anyway, so it looks so it looks less as it's something cut out and stuck under a white background. The detail now. Remember, we're looking at the D700, so it's only 12 megapixels. God, I really needed the Sony A1 with its 50 megapixels. Or the Sony A7R2, is it, with 65 megapixels or something, to get any sort of detail. I mean, this is going to be a completely rubbish shot, isn't it? So from a crappy old 12 megapixel camera that's 12 years old, with a 20-year lens, 20-year-old lens on, zoomed in 100%, this is the sort of detail we get. Which is why I did the video a couple of weeks ago about the Sony A1 and other cameras like that. Why do we need this? Okay, I'm not going to digress. No, let me get back on my horse. So that's that shot there. What I'll now do is we'll look at the, sorry, and I didn't explain what I did to this. I've actually got a preset called Black X Skin. I'm not sure why I called it that. It seemed a good idea at the time whenever I created it, and it plays around with the SL sliders. It does some stuff with the normal sliders here. It puts some texture in, a bit of sharpening. It's got chromatic aberration. Sorry, it's got rid of chromatic aberration. And pretty well instantly. In fact, let me just go back to here. That particular one, pretty well instantly, a bit over the top on the exposure, but it's, as you can see, it's not too far off the finished shot. I did then need to go around and get rid of all the stones using the spot removal tool and the trees in the background, and as you can see, ended up with that. Okay, so now let's look at the line of trees, the object of the whole exercise. This is a D780 shot at f2. Now, if you remember back in the video, this was using manual focus, and I was saying that the whole of this row of trees was showing up with focus peaking as being in focus. And I actually moved the focus point on live view over to this side, and I zoomed in and I checked that that was in focus over here, and as you can see, we've got pretty damn good focus here, and to a large part it extends reasonably well down half the row of trees. It could still have done with focus stacking. So there we go, I've learned something there. Don't necessarily trust technology, and although this was showing all of these trees as being in focus as far as focus peaking goes, reality is it's not, and it did just need that final few millimeters adjustment on the focus ring in manually focusing to get these last few trees absolutely perfectly in focus. So that's the D780. The D700, similar shot. and it really is very difficult to choose between those two shots. So for the sake of sharing the honours between both cameras, I'm going to use this shot from the D780, and I'm going to play around with this, and we'll come back in a few minutes when I've had my play around with it. I've actually decided that it's probably quicker to do the work I need to do in Photoshop, so here we are in Photoshop, and let's have a play around with it. It's very easy in the latest version of Lightroom to do content aware fill. So I'm going to fill the whole of this area, which has got lots of stones and lines in, with an area from over here which is a lot smoother, and that's the look it's going to give me. So that's fine, I'm going to do that. Okay, so about 10 minutes later, I've been playing around with the clone stamp tool, and I've copied some nice snow from over here to over here. I've got rid of all the background stuff. I've got rid of some of the really slightly over bright blue bits in the sky. So let's now go back into Lightroom and just finish that off. So here we are back in Lightroom. I pretty well like that. There's just a couple of things that I'm going to do. I just want to soften the horizon. Actually, I like that bit. I'm not going to touch that. Okay, I think we're done, so let's have a look at the before and the after. So I've kind of lost the horizon there. I've darkened this down a little bit on this side. I've sharpened the trees up a little bit, blurred the sky a bit more. It's before, after. I just got a bit of a line across there. I'll just get rid of that, and then I'm going to call that it, and that's really it for today's video. I hope you found that useful, and I hope you appreciate just how good the D700 is. It really is a fabulous camera. That's it for today. Hopefully I'll be doing a new video in a few days' time. See you then.